I'm going to make predictions for the 6 to 8 biggest players in the sports card space. That includes companies like Fanatics, eBay, Golden, Whatnot, and many more. I've got a ton of experience consulting and in business, and I tend to see how markets play out before they actually play out. So I think my thoughts here could be helpful, especially if you're trying to understand what's going to happen in our space from a mergers and acquisitions perspective. Let's start with eBay. I'm also going to include, it's sort of the live selling wars, right? Like you've got eBay and Walmart and Whatnot and Fanatics Live and Loop and everybody else. But eBay is the juggernaut. They're about $40 billion market cap, big company, but they haven't stayed up to date with their tech, and customers hate them. I did an earlier video where there was a survey on just like the sellers. They're all dating. They're all trying. Everybody's trying to leave eBay. They hate the feast, but they can't because eBay's got the reach. I think eBay is going to chug along and actually not make much ground. I think eBay has actually peaked. They are obviously dominant in our space, and you want a card to get the maximum visibility, throw it up on eBay. But I don't see them doing a ton more. I also don't see them making a ton of acquisitions. I think they'll try to grow their live, but their live tech sucks. So they got to get the right influencers, the right cards, the right stuff in place to make that work. And it's going to take money. They got money. Kind of just maintain where they're at. Walmart is an interesting one. They have $1 trillion market cap, and if they fart in this space, it's like an earthquake. I don't know what's going to happen with them. You know, they're just not seen as cool, so they're going to enter the live selling space, of course, because they got money. But man, I'm not like jumping on a Walmart live stream to like rip some baseball cards. I think of like toothpaste and socks and shirts and stuff like that, but they got money. They have their own little marketplace, but it's not eBay. It doesn't have the cachet. So I wouldn't think too hard about them. One company, PSA, is actually very interesting. So that's a holding company, very similar to Fanatics. They own Card Ladder. They also have... they had Golden. They got rid of it. Golden's under eBay now. I'm going to get to Golden separately in a minute. But PSA is a beast, man. This whole thing is coming to a head. It's coming into a duopoly. Like, it's Fanatics and PSA. That's how this thing goes down. Maybe eBay you include in there as part of the ecosystem, but it's really Fanatics on one side and PSA on the other. PSA has a market comp. They're integrated with eBay, so they've made an alliance there. You can see the pop reports on eBay. You can send the PSA vault seamlessly through eBay. You can do it the other way. You can go on PSA and send it to eBay from there. And all of this lowers inertia. And when you lower inertia in a high user environment, you get stickier users that spend more money, and you get more rotations. You get more lifetime value. Like, somebody's just not going to leave PSA unless they're really super pissed off. And they also have other partnerships, right? Like you see PSA boxes in Best Buy now, where it's a grading kit. It's got all supplies you need and 2 grading credits. And they're very smartly making alliances. Some not so smartly. They've aligned with Backyard. They did a break with them at PSA headquarters. I don't love that for optics, but it's interesting what's going to happen, with PSA. I think that they are going to cruise. I think they've got a $5 billion valuation right now. I know there's an open offer out in the PE world at like $2 or $3 billion that they're just laughing at and not going to take. Nat Turner owns about 10% of the company. You can see the report when he joined the Gamestop board that stated his ownership. And GameStop's another one, man. Like PSA is aligned with them. My prediction there, I actually think GameStop will acquire PSA at some point. It makes sense. They've got the liquidity for it. And then, I actually don't feel good about that. If I was Nat, and he doesn't really own majority of the company anymore, but if I was the board of PSA, I would just run the course. I would not get acquired. They're dominating. They're just printing money. They're turning plastic into cash. And they are the grading standard for our era. And they could get knocked off their throne by, whatever. Arena Club, yeah, right. Some of the upstarts, the different grading companies, the ones that use AI, the ones that don't use AI. But I don't think so. PSA is just a massive beast. But they got a force to be reckoned with in Fanatics. And Fanatics is no joke either. They've got their own marketplace, Fanatics Collect. They could do a few tweaks there, and they could give eBay a run for its money, because typically when you have a non-specialized marketplace like eBay, and you have a specialized marketplace like Fanatics Collect, usually with the right investment and the right focus, the specialized marketplace can win, and usually wins. And so Fanatics should win that battle with sports cards. And they already are on the high end. They've already got the high end cards. Ken Golden was whining about the fact that, Fanatics owns the licenses, and they make the debut patch cards, and they have the contact information for whoever gets them. And then they reach out and say, hey, do you want to auction it on Fanatics Collect? It's wild, but there's nothing illegal about that. They've just got a great vertically integrated chain, and so does PSA, to be honest. I think Golden, so just to recap here, PSA is going to crush. Fanatics is crushing. They're just going to grow and grow and grow and be very profitable, especially with the licenses. If you think Panini is going to win this lawsuit, you're dreaming. Maybe Fanatics gets hit with a $500 million bill, or $1 billion or $1.5 billion, which will be painful, but they will pay. And now they have the licenses forever. Like, great, we paid our tax. So Fanatics is just going to crush. There's a risk of overprinting there. There's some risk in Pokemon, where that's over 50% of many sports card shops right now. So that's pretty wild how Pokemon is, I don't think Fanatics has an answer for that IP just yet. Mickey Mouse cards and SpongeBob cards are not cutting it against Pokemon right now. But they could do I have some ideas, with art cards and the Marvel franchise and other long tail pop culture. I think Fanatics could tap into and actually attack the massive, the might of Pokemon. Plus, they could also do crossovers with the IP. That is the dream. So I think, and Ruben is he's an amazing entrepreneur. He's no joke. He got into this because he loves cards too. So he's not parting with this stuff. And it's all cylinders firing until IPO. So Fanatics is rising. PSA is rising. Those two are going to dominate our space for a long time. eBay is kind of in that second tier. Walmart's a wannabe. Let's get into Whatnot, right? So Whatnot is, $5 billion on their latest valuation. They have some issues. They have quite a few issues, almost like Craigslist. I'm an Internet 1.0 guy, and Craigslist was a joke for a while. People would get raped and murdered on there. And, Whatnot's not far behind. People are getting abused on camera, doing drugs on camera, beating kids on camera. Not a great platform. They're growing so fast, they can't police it. And I think that all they really care about is an acquisition. So, oh man, who's going to acquire Whatnot? They are a prime target for Walmart, where it's like $5 billion is a cup of coffee when you're $1 trillion company. If they buy Whatnot, it's a perfect integration. It's easy, it's seamless. They are more than capitalized to do it. I don't see eBay doing that because they're competitors with the marketplaces. I don't see Fanatics doing that because they have their own Fanatics Live thing, which, by the way, is much better and much more polished and has actual filters for the people they allow on. And I don't know, do you see PSA acquiring Whatnot? That's the other possibility. I would say 80% chance Walmart acquires them, 20% PSA acquires Whatnot. So those are those companies. Trying to think who else we got here. We can run through the other manufacturers. Panini. So Upper Deck's easy. I think, they're going to keep crushing. They're going to be more specialized. They're hockey and they're Jordan. That's how I think of them. And so, if you have the Jordan autograph rights, that's quite fascinating. They could do a lot more with that. I've spoken to the executives there. They've listened to some of my ideas. I hope they use them. But yeah, they're the only place in town for hockey. I don't see Fanatics taking that from them. Seems like everybody's happy with that setup. I think Panini dies a slow, well-deserved death. They pretended that they were Rome in the peak Roman era, and they wanted to, just overcharge people, do these ridiculous Dutch auctions for multi-$1,000s and just milk and milk and milk and milk. But I will give them credit. They did 10x the hobby. Whether it was them or, the Prisms or, COVID or whatever, but they were kind of doing things before COVID. That 2012 Prism set is sick. It's my favorite basketball set. Got the whole thing in my closet. So I don't know. They're going to go on license. No one's going to give a crap about their cards. They might get some. There'll be an autograph battle. You know, Panini. It's easy to like snipe a player here and there for autographs and stuff like that. So you could see Panini do that. They might make a big play. I know Leaf has got this, you know, this area cornered, but I could see Panini going after pop culture. You know, like whatever, Jimi Hendrix cut autos or Taylor Swift autos or, you know, grunge era box or something like that. You know, Panini could definitely do that. So it will be interesting. I think at the end of this, like I said, Fanatics and PSA rise to the top. For M&A, Whatnot's getting acquired. They're probably going to get acquired by Walmart. And, you know, these breaking companies, there'll be some merging there. Some will die out. Some will pop. Backyard Breaks is here forever. They will be part of whatever Whatnot thing happens. Backyard will be part of that. And you can expect Grant and his net worth to go very high when they do a stock swap for Walmart. Love it or hate it, he has built a brand and a resilient company that can survive just about any shenanigans that they can throw at it, which is rare in business. So props to everybody there. So it's interesting. I'll keep following these, you know, especially Golden and others that impact us, because I think it's important. If we know what happens to the companies in our space, it helps us have a better understanding of sports cards in general. And it may impact how you collect and what you collect in the future. And I think that's important to think about. So follow along. Thanks, everyone.